So with that, I'm happy to greet everyone this evening, Monday evening, the 25th of January. Thank you for joining us for our first 2021 LChaim, A Taste of Jewish Music from Anywhere program. We, again, are thrilled that so many of you are here. I'll take a quick moment to thank our sponsors who are numerous, starting with Colorado Creative Industries, SCFD, the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District, the City and County of Denver, Rose Community Foundation, Anonymous, as well as the Bain Family Foundation. Information about all of our supporters, and we hope we can add you to that list, can be found at the website known as the Colorado Hebrew Chorale.org. The person who was Catchco Gray, with whom I've had a professional and a personal relationship for decades now. It's wonderful that everybody's here to join with her on this presentation. And if one of her congregants, who's also now singing in the virtual, never mind, there she is. I found her. We're going to take a moment. Please unmute yourself, Tammy. So Tammy Jacob Schulman is going to be now taking care of introducing her cantor, Deborah Catchco Gray. Take it away.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Jacob Schulman, and I'm a member of Shir Shalom Temple in Ridgefield, Connecticut. As a member, I've been fortunate enough to hear wonderful, rich, and inviting music each time I attend services at the temple due to Cantor Deborah Catchco Gray, who we fondly refer to as Cantor Debbie. Tonight, Cantor Debbie will present Eli Wiesel's songs and stories in recognition of International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It is now my privilege and great honor to introduce to you my cantor, Deborah Catchco Gray.
Yay! Thank you, Tammy. Thank you. And one day when COVID is past, we will have you live in our choir together. We'll be able to sing side by side, and I look forward to that so much. Thank you, Carol. Carol's family, I knew in Norwalk when I was a cantor there in the early 80s. And it's just wonderful how you've embraced Jewish choral music as an important career and an important voice in the Jewish choral movement in this country. So it's an honor to be here. I'm delighted to share music of Eli Wiesel. Most people think of Eli Wiesel as the writer, Holocaust survivor, teacher, mentor, certainly for me, philosopher, scholar, and international spokesperson for humanity. We certainly need someone like Eli Wiesel today, and there is nobody so far that can fill those shoes, sadly. His voice was a voice that shook us to our core. It was a voice that people would listen to, and boy, do we need a voice like that today. I was very fortunate to get to know Professor Wiesel, beginning with his very first class at Boston University. I walked into his classroom and everyone had to write on a 3x5 card why you wanted to take his class, because there wasn't enough room for everyone who wanted to take his class to be there, mostly because of fire code and university regulations. This was in 1976. It was the first class he taught at BU. And I remember writing something on the card saying that I'm from a family of cantors. At that time, I had no idea I could even be a woman cantor. So I'm from a family of cantors. I love Jewish music. I want to teach children, Jewish children, about our culture, about our history. And that's why I want to take your class. And he took me aside when the class was over and he said, my door will always be open to you. And he was a bit of a rebel, kind of like me. And he let me sit in on every single class he taught, whether it was master's level or PhD. Um, I could literally enter the classroom anytime I wanted. And so I did my schedule. I was in the School of Education, and I made my schedule according to Eli Wiesel's classes. So I like to say I majored in Eli Wiesel. It was before they even had a Judaic major. They didn't even have that at BU in those years. But it was such a special place to be, and a special learning experience that when I was 19, I would have no idea that those lessons would literally carry me through my adulthood. And I wrote something about being in his classroom from a lecture I gave for a Holocaust Remembrance Day. I'd like to read it now to give you a sense of what it was like. His classroom became a safe sanctuary for students from every background and experience. Everyone's life experiences could find a home with Professor Wiesel and a compassionate ear. Learning was done with compassion, wonder, and questions. How does one educate towards memory? Wiesel's answer is that listening to a witness makes a listener a witness. In one of the many books written about him, called Eli Wiesel, Jewish Literary and Moral Perspectives, he is quoted, "In our tradition, anyone who teaches you something, a word, a sentence, a story, becomes your teacher." Tonight I'm going to add a song. So I have many teachers. The Jewish tradition is a tradition of teaching. Disciples one day become teachers. We are teachers because we are disciples. We are disciples because we know how to listen. My grandfather, Dud Yufeg, is one of those no longer alive, and yet his teaching is alive because I am. Listening to a witness makes a listener a witness. Professor Wiesel asks at the end of every course, what have you learned, and what will you do with what you have learned? How have you changed? Who are you now that you have indeed received something from your teacher? Who are you now? Wiesel does something very rare. He gives his students permission to be transformed and to become teachers and leaders based on that transformation. I was transformed by his teaching from that very first day in class. I hope you will share, study, and help keep the lessons and questions from Eli Wiesel's classroom alive for future generations. So tonight we're going to enter a world of song from Eli Wiesel, a very special sing-along that happened in 1998 when Martha Hauptman, his very loyal and wonderful administrator, invited the students and the teachers who were there for a 3-day symposium to study and celebrate the life of Eli Wiesel. She thought it would be a good idea at the end of this 3-day event to meet back in his office and sit in the room before his study and sing. And perhaps he'd come out of his office and he would want to sing with us. And this would be a wonderful way to finish this 3-day celebration of his 70th birthday. So I was invited to come. I had a little mini guitar, and my friend cantor Ricky Lippitz came with a little tape recorder, and thank God she recorded it. And I started with some Yiddish songs, and one of them was a Big Gesint, which I used to sing with the Boston Zamir Chorale. And then I did Roshenkiss mit Mandlin, and he came out of his office and he said, "You could wipe the floor with the tears from that song." And he seemed a little bit intrigued. And then we started singing, and he started offering songs from childhood. And one after another, these gems just came out. And we sang with him, but you can hear his voice. And more important than hearing my voice tonight, I think, is listening to the voice of Eli Wiesel singing these very precious songs from childhood. And I added a song sheet in the materials so that I really want you to sing along. I know we're all muted, but I love the idea of creating a community of song and remembering Eli Wiesel through his voice and through the music that he shared. I want to begin before the first song, which will be the Save, And then it'll be Fun Kosev Bizkitev. So whoever is doing the screen sharing, Leah, you can just put on that first sheet in, that's fine. And I would like to just read this that he wrote. This is a foreword he wrote for a book called Songs of the Holocaust, We Are Here. And this is what Professor Wiesel wrote. In Cheder long ago we learned, and then Moses sang, Az Yashir Moshe. And so Moses, our teacher, and the children of Israel, while standing by the sea, began to sing. Since that time, the Jewish song has accompanied the history of the Jewish people. Everything is said in song. Song of songs, and psalms, hymns, lamentations, longing and survival. Songs of joy, songs of sorrow, songs of mourning. The expression of the soul of our people is in their song. More correctly, is their song. Jews on the way to the slaughter, chambers, and they sang. They dreamed about redemption and sang. Rocking their children, they allowed themselves to be carried away by the magic of old and new melodies. Mighty is the melody, eternal is the song. The temple of song is close to the throne of glory. Was the heart heavy? Have the eyes become swollen with tears? The answer was a simple one. One sang in order to fall into ecstasy. Then one sang with ecstasy. Forgotten was the punishment of exile. On the wings of song, one soared most high, if not still higher. Even in the dark years of devastation, Jews found strength and inspiration to impart their spirit, their despair, their heroism in Jewish song. The first song that Professor Wiesel sang is called Save, and the words are very simple and very powerful. Only God is king. May he order that Israel be redeemed. Imagine singing a song praying for redemption when you're caught up in the Holocaust. And so we're going to hear him sing this, and we will hopefully sing it. I love that. I love that. I hope you can hear the sound okay. I know it's an old recording that's been remastered, and hopefully you'll be able to hear his voice. The next song is really a magical song, Fun Kosev Bizkitev, and the music that I found actually said Fun Kitev Bizkosev, but this is the way Professor Wiesel sang it. And it talks about the towns that the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, between these two towns, what did the Baal Shem Tov do? Well, he came to a bridge, and what did he do by the bridge? He was taking a stroll, a spazier. He was spazieren. He came to a little stream, and he was immersing himself. He made like a mikveh in the stream. And then he came to a little forest. And I love this. Who would know that in Yiddish there's a word for meditation? He's boididus. He meditated in the forest. And then he came upon some little birds, and they were singing. And this verse Professor Wiesel added, which I absolutely love, of course. It appeals to the cantor in me, and it'll appeal to the choral singers in you. The Baal Shem Tov came to a little shtibala. He came to a little shul, and what did he do there? He prayed. He was praying. So we're going to hear Professor Wiesel sing this, and when it comes to the chorus, please sing along. It's so beautiful. This is one of my favorites, especially when he talks about the shtibala.
Ist Gottes gegangen, und der Bauschen, und der Bauschen, ist Gottes gegangen.
Hey, Rebben, you can sing with us. Rebben you, oy vey, Rebben you, Rebben you, Rebben you, oy vey, Rebben you.
Zwischen Kissen und Kosse, dieser Hanke verraten.
Isa teichele verraten, with the Baal Shem, with the Baal Shem.
Ist Teufel sich gegangen, wo der Baal Shem, wo der Baal Shem. Ist Teufel sich gegangen. Zwischen Kippe und Kosse, dieser Stimmel verraten.
Last verse. Stimmel verraten,
und der Baal Shem, und der Baal Shem, sich dannen gegangen, und der Baal Shem, und der Baal Shem, sich dannen gegangen.
Listen. I love that comment at the end. Rabbi Nehemiah Poland, who was such a wonderful scholar and teacher, he said, he's outside the door. That this song must have brought the Baal Shem Tov right to our feet. It was so beautiful. And now we have the next one. I love this. There's a little story about this, the Yari Bone. So I grew up, my father was a cantor, a conservative cantor, and for many years, 10 years, he was in Meriden, and 10 years he was in New Britain. And when I was in high school, and even when I came back in college, if I was home for a weekend, I loved to keep my father company and drive with him from Stamford up to his little part-time conservative synagogue Friday night service. And very often we would sing. And he always loved Yari Bone, no longer Maya, Ve'ol Maya, Atu Malka, Melech Malchaya, Melech Malchaya, etc. I love that song. And years later, sadly, he had cancer, and I remember they were trying to put a line in my father's arm, and they were having trouble. And we started singing this song together, and he was able to relax a little bit. So I had that memory of this song. It was a sad memory, But then I had a wonderful experience with Professor Wiesel. I started singing that melody, and all of a sudden he threw in, oh, Oy, Tata Zisa Melech, in the middle of the song. And I thought, wow, that's nice. I've never heard that before. But when they talked about Malka Melech, the king, Oy, Tata Zisa Melech, oh, Father, sweet king. It was just such a beautiful little phrase. And I thought, well, that's very lovely and interesting and beautiful and touching. And then many years later, I was so fortunate to meet a cousin who was a cantor and a Holocaust survivor. And his wife, when she passed, the family gifted me this beautiful necklace, which is literally a Torah ark. And she always wore this, so it's very meaningful to wear it tonight, because he also loved Professor Wiesel and loved to sing for him at different times in his life. But when I was singing the Yari Bone of my cousin of blessed memory, Cantor Leopold Sneer, he did the same thing. He threw in, Oy, Tata Zisa Melech. And I love that. So you're going to hear us sing the song. And the way he threw that in was just absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to go to and see if you can hear him add that. Trying to add his little phrase. Oh, now he's. So he tried to get it in, and I realized what he was trying to do. Then he wanted to sing his Vishnitzer, Yari Bone. It's beautiful.
That is also Vishnitz.
Sing the chorus again. Then you have it.
Oh, that's just so beautiful. And you can hear his voice. He had a beautiful singing voice that not everybody was aware of. I had two opportunities to sing with him in a car. Once he was giving a lecture in Danbury, and if any of you heard him in the years when he was giving these big lectures, the halls were packed, and there was a limo that would bring him, and if you were lucky, you might get a word with him or a hug or a handshake, and then they'd whisk him away. There were many years when he was doing these, big lecture halls, big lectures, and you were lucky to get a seat, standing room only. And one of these lectures was in Danbury, and I remember afterwards, I saw him sitting in the limo, and the driver was having an argument with the organizers, and he probably didn't get paid or something. And I remember I walked over to Professor Wiesel and I said, you know, Professor Wiesel, I'm sure you have better things to do than sit in the limo while this guy's arguing. And he said, well, yes, my son is in a machela. He's in a choir performance at Ramaz on the west side of New York. And I don't want to miss it. I want to see him. I said, well, come in our car. We'll take you. So he got out of the limo. I'm sure the limo driver was horrified because he was responsible for Professor Wiesel, but he was a bit of a rebel just like me. I said, come on, we'll drive you. My mother was so thrilled. It was one of the greatest days of her life. I think Lieba Lander was in the car as well. And we sang the whole way from Norwalk, Connecticut to the west side of New York. It was just an absolute thrill. Another time I'd gone up to Boston. I used to go every year to go to his classroom at least once after I graduated. I just had to sit in that classroom and learn from him. And it was a very foggy day, and I remember walking out from the Eli Wiesel Center of Judaic Studies, which is a beautiful building. If you're ever at BU, you must go in and see it. It's like a palace dedicated to his parents. And it was very, very foggy, and they canceled his flight. He used to fly from New York to Boston to teach. And I was there with a friend, and we had a car, and I said, Professor Wiesel, you probably want to get home. And I said, I do want to get home. I said, well, we'll drive you. And so we drove from Boston to New York and had the most wonderful time, again, singing in the car, singing. So we had this wonderful relationship where we could just sing together. And it was just beautiful. And what is his favorite song? He thinks the most beautiful song in the world is the Vishnitzer Ani Maamin. Whenever I sing Ani Maamin, I always start with the Wiesel version and then I go into the traditional version. And at the end of him singing this, and it's very powerful, the students and there are a lot of authors that were sitting there who have studied his life and written anthologies about him. We're singing Ani Maamin with Eli Wiesel. And at the end he says, Ach, that's the most beautiful song. Ach, that's the most beautiful song. Ach. I love the way he says that. And you'll hear that at the end. I'm going to play this.
There was a business maker that had been forgotten for many years.
That's the most beautiful song. Ach, that's my favorite part of that. I love that. What could be more meaningful than to hear Eli Wiesel sing that? just nothing. It's just unbelievably moving. And so the next melody I thought I'd like to share with you is something that we can all sing along. It's just the Hasidic nigun that everybody knows, but I think it's very special when Eli Wiesel leads us in it. So let's sing together. We went on and on. It was really very powerful, but I don't want to go on too much. The next song I thought was also very special. We were singing to him, to our wonderful teacher, Mihaish. And what a wonderful tribute that we could offer something to our great teacher. Certainly someone who shuns evil and does good, someone who seeks integrity and pursues it. I'd love you to hear the way we sang this to him, and we can certainly sing this together as well. I always find this song. You can hear him singing with us. Okay, I want to move on to Zolzine Shabbos because I'm hoping that maybe there's some questions, and I'd love to be able to speak with you and hear from you as well. So I'd like to conclude with this Zolzine Shabbos. I love the way Professor Wiesel sings it, and it always reminds me that we should be singing this on Shabbos more often.
Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos in der ganze Welt. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos auf der ganze Welt. Shabbos soll sein, jeden Shabbos. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos auf der ganze Welt. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos auf der ganze Welt. Shalom, 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 soll sein, jeden Shalom. Shalom soll sein, Shalom soll sein, Shalom mit der ganze Welt. Shalom soll sein, Shalom soll sein, Shalom mit der ganze Welt.
Oh, I would like to finish that with something that Professor Wiesel wrote. He wrote a beautiful cantata, A Song for Hope, many years ago, and this is something that the choir sang. These are his words. A song of hope, a song for hope. In an inhuman world, humanity is hope. In a desperate and despairing world, the hope for salvation is salvation. Listen, Jeremiah. Come closer, Ezekiel. Children of the ghetto, hounded beggars and tormented women. Give us what was denied you. Some respite, some joy. Messianic dreamers, prophetic students, Hasidic disciples. Give us what was taken from you. Generosity, compassion, peace. Amen. So I would be happy to answer any questions, or maybe Carol wants to ask me some questions.
Okay. I want to first share with you how thrilled everybody is, and I've been monitoring a lot of information here in our chat. Just so you know, people are here from up and down the East Coast, not only Tammy in Katona, Connecticut, Boston, New Jersey, New York City, Philly, Florida, and then we jump into the mountain time zone, and that includes Colorado as well as Wyoming. And amongst the people on the call are a number of people who saw this because of a Facebook notice, and this is their first introduction to the Colorado Hebrew Chorale.
Nice.
So I say welcome to you. It's great to find out where people are coming in from. One thing that's a really wonderful side comment, and there are many people here who join you with Boston or Boston Zamir or BU specific loyalty by different generations. One of them is a member of our own Colorado Hebrew Chorale, whose parents, she's on the call, Valerie, and her parents who are in Chicago. I got this here. Her maternal grandfather was from Sighet, and which is already wow, and believes there is a family connection there. And I did know about the survivor nature in her background. That I too am also a child of Holocaust survivors. So in some ways we find each other fairly quickly. Many people are talking.
One thing.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I know we call this a taste of, and you like the idea of always having some kind of tasting thing. So I asked Eli Wiesel what was his father's favorite treats, and he said, believe it or not, which I took one bite of, and it's not my favorite, but roasted chestnuts he loved. Who would know? And chocolate. Now, I didn't want to insult Alicia because I was just, this is what I grabbed. And he said, didn't my father have better taste in chocolate? I said, I know he did, but this is the only thing I could find. So I'm going to apologize publicly but Hershey's is not bad. But perhaps I should have found a finer chocolate bar. But Professor Wiesel loved chocolate. And at the end of class, somebody always loved to bring him a chocolate bar.
So I
Anyways,
did not
that's
know about the chestnuts, and as for me, I'm taking my chocolate in a liquid form
Oh.
this evening,
very nice.
just because it's only 60 days till Passover, so I have to make a dent in
Yeah.
this in the supply that's here.
Thank you
Many,
so much.
many
I just
people
want to also say that one day I hope to write a book about this. I feel very intimidated by the whole idea of writing down his words, my thoughts about them. I've written a ton of essays on Times of Israel, and I put my website up there if anybody wants to read. I collected a bunch of quotes from 40 years of classes and lectures. And there are a lot of things that I've written about Wiesel, and I have a lot of memorabilia, and I've just thrown it on my website in a section of Eli Wiesel. But one day I am trying to find the courage to actually write a book about how his teachings really affected my life. And that could be a whole nother discussion one day. But truly, if you ever find yourself in a dark place, if you read Eli Wiesel, you will find the strength and the courage to get yourself out of whatever darkness or I don't want to say self-pity, but if you're in a bad place and you're feeling a little woe is me, you will feel nothing but strength and hope, and that you have the opportunity to go forward, unlike so many who couldn't. And I had some years that were honestly very difficult, but the lessons from Eli Wiesel gave me such strength to go forward and look at what I had, not what I didn't have, and understand that I had the power to make a difference. And we all have the power to speak truth to power and speak up against injustice, speak out against anti-Semitism, racism, and I think his message is so relevant for us today. It continues to be an inspiring voice, and if we all, listen to it, he'll be heard for generations to come, I hope.
Okay, many people here are giving you all the wonderful compliments about everything you've done to bring his music to life, and we're thrilled that has happened. I'm going to give 1 minute over so that there'll be a slide letting folks know if they're able to support us this evening. Since we've been part of COVID, yes, all of us feel like this has been going on for way too long, but
Yeah.
this is what we're doing. We certainly would appreciate any support for the Colorado Hebrew Chorale, large or small, it's all good. And you can give us an opportunity to include all of you, at some future time. Visit the Colorado Hebrew Chorale website. There is a support button there, and now you see it. And if you have any other questions, you can let us know now. I will also take a moment to give up some commercial time for what's coming up with the Colorado Hebrew Chorale and with our women's ensemble, Kol Nashim. The next events that are coming up for everyone who needs to know, didn't know, later on this week, you're welcome to commemorate the 76th anniversary of the date now known as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. That is 2 days from now. That's the reason for this particular tie-in. The 27th of January has been recognized by the UN as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Wednesday evening begins the Jewish festival, the New Year of the Trees, and for Mother Nature, Tu B'Shvat. And we, in previous years, our organizations have had a Raisins and Almonds Showcase, which we hope we will be bringing back in 2022. Can't tell you exactly when or how. Actually, I could, but I don't have that date in front of me. Meanwhile, also coming up in LChaim on Monday night, February the 22nd, is a taste of Jewish music from Casablanca, with my better half, Seth Ward, presenting the music from the movie musical from 1973, Casablanca. And on the Monday, March 22nd, it'll be a taste of Jewish music from Argentina with Cantor Shayla Nesses. Cantor Shayla, formerly of Temple Sinai, Denver, now a resident of Portland, Maine. Other chorale programs include basically Jewish Broadway. That'll be on the first Sunday of the month. So the next one is Super Bowl Sunday, February the 7th, with our presenter, Mimi Raisin. We also have coming up Marvelous Musical Men. That's a monthly program offered by my friend and colleague, Leah Peer, who is also the founder and music director of Kol Nashim. All of this information is at the Colorado Hebrew Chorale website, so please come check it out. And let's see, with everybody else who says thank you, and thank you, it looks like you're ready to take us out with something, so let's do it.
Okay. Why don't we finish with that lovely nigun? I did it, I did it, I did it, Thank you so much for having me. This is definitely the silver lining of COVID, that we can be together, and God willing, we'll sing together one day, but it's awfully nice to be able to do it by Zoom.
Same
and to
here.
see everybody. Thank you so much for having me.
All the best. Call my mother.
Okay.
Should call you.